Nothing seems to be going right for Ubisoft. I mean, the stock is at an all-time low. Everyone getting fired, layoffs. They're selling part of the company to Tencent in China and sailing away with a complete disaster. And now we have a lawsuit. Marc-Alexis Côté, probably one of the most famous people at Ubisoft, or at least formerly at Ubisoft, says his departure from Ubisoft wasn't voluntary at all. Basically, a dismissal. And now he's suing in Quebec Superior Court for 1.3 million in damages. Ubisoft's internal chaos just keeps spilling out into the public view. Yasuke is the gift that keeps on giving to content creators. This is a story that, like, with the Yasuke situation, I was like, man, those were some good views as a content creator. Built the channel by just laughing at a situation and pointing at Ubisoft, being like, what the hell were they thinking with this? They can't be this DEI stupid. But yes, they were. Video Games Chronicle. Former Assassin's Creed boss sues Ubisoft for more than $1.3 million, alleging constructive dismissal. Marc-Alexis Côté claims Ubisoft falsely announced he had voluntarily left the company. Trying to save face, Ubisoft? It was announced in October 2025, and I covered that in a previous video back when it happened because this was a big deal, that Côté had left Ubisoft after working on the Assassin's Creed series for nearly 2 decades as a designer, director, and producer. In 2022, Côté was put in charge of leading Ubisoft's global teams on the Assassin's Creed franchise, tasked with shaping the long-term strategy of the series. However, last October, Ubisoft's new Tencent-backed subsidiary Vantage Studios started operation, overseeing the company's 3 biggest IPs, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. 2 weeks after Vantage started, co-CEOs Charles Guillemot and Christophe Dernes emailed the staff and posted a press release claiming that Côté had been offered a leadership position at the subsidiary, but declined the offer and had decided to leave Ubisoft. Later that week, Côté released his own statement claiming he didn't resign and was asked to step aside by Ubisoft, who had decided to transfer the leadership of the Assassin's Creed franchise to someone closer to its organizational structure, adding, a different position was mentioned, but it did not carry the same scope, mandate, or continuity with the work I had been entrusted with in recent years. Now, CBC Radio Canada reports that Côté is taking Ubisoft to court, citing constructive dismissal and claiming more than 1.3 million in severance pay and moral damages. So, how much money was this guy getting paid if he wants $1.3 million in severance and moral damages? Côté's lawsuit claims that Ubisoft management meeting held in summer of 2025 revealed that the company was looking to find a head of franchise who would oversee the 3 IPs taken over by Vantage, and that this position would have taken on most of Côté's responsibilities. Côté says he was instead offered a role of head of production, which would have reported to the head of franchise and would have caused him to lose the prestige of overseeing the series, as well as his ability to lead dialogue with partners like Netflix. And to be honest, this was a very dumb decision by Ubisoft, and it tells me that it's a decision coming from Tencent, and they wanted to decide who to put in charge, because this is a dude that was leading Assassin's Creed for decades. And when it came to get rid of the series, they were like, anyways, bye, bro. According to Côté, Ubisoft then decided in September to offer him a leadership position at a potential creative house, which would oversee Ubisoft's second-tier series. Given that he saw himself as the guardian of the Assassin's Creed series, Côté claims these proposals were essentially demotions. Taking 2 weeks off to reflect because he was disoriented, confused, and affected by the anxiety-inducing situation, Côté says he was told by Ubisoft at the end of the period that he had to make his final decision on whether to accept the proposed new position. Côté decided that it was an unacceptable demotion and a disguised dismissal, so formally demanded Ubisoft pay him severance pay. Côté claims that Ubisoft told him not to show up for work on October 13th and to continue his period off until it responded to his formal notice. The next day, Ubisoft officially announced that Côté had left his position. The lawsuit claims that because Ubisoft's statement suggested a voluntary departure, the company was trying to avoid paying him severance and to keep his non-compete clause active, which presumably remains in effect when someone voluntarily leaves a company, but not if they're laid off. Okay, so this actually gives him a little bit of standing ground on his lawsuit. And that's shady as fuck by Ubisoft. Côté is claiming 2 years salary and severance pay, as well as $75,000 in moral damages for what he says are an abuse of power and harm to his reputation, for a total of more than $1.3 million. That means that this guy was making over $600,000 a year. Not surprising in the position that he was in to be making around that. He's also asked the court to lift the non-compete clause. Video Games Chronicle contacted Ubisoft for comment. The company replied, "We don't comment on legal matters." But you know who does? Marc-Alexis Côté does. And he actually posted on LinkedIn. And he says, "The past 24 hours have been deeply emotional. Reading all your public and private messages has reminded me of so many moments, people, and shared dreams the past 2 decades. I've been archiving all of them, something to revisit one day when I'm old, smiling at what we built together. From the messages of colleagues, friends, and fans, a recurring theme has emerged that I feel need to clarify. Many of you have expressed surprise that I would choose to leave Assassin's Creed after so many years, especially given the passage I still hold for it. The truth is simple. I did not make that choice. Ubisoft decided to transfer the leadership of Assassin's Creed franchise to someone closer to its new organizational structure. A different position was mentioned, but it did not carry the same scope, mandate, or continuity with the work I had been entrusted with in recent years. I want to be clear. I hold no resentment. Ubisoft has been my home for all my professional life, and I will always be grateful for the people, the projects, and the belief that together we could create worlds that inspire millions. But I also owe it to my teams, past and present, to say this plainly. I did not walk away. I stayed at my post until Ubisoft asked me to step aside. As someone who grew up inspired by Star Trek, The Next Generation, is that TNG, I'm assuming? In the later years of my career, I came to see myself as a captain of Assassin's Creed ship, someone who leaves only once every soul on board is safe. And that is exactly what I've done for as long as I could. Thank you for the messages of support. They mean more to me than you can imagine. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. I get the disappointment, but there were too many bad products released by Ubisoft recently. I think there were 4 in a row, which were overpriced and uninteresting. I think the last interesting AC for me was Odyssey. Okay, so they're going with I get why they let you go. If that's the case, I get that too. That was my first thought. But if Ubisoft took the perspective of, oh, hey, no, he left on his own, and it was a mutual agreeing, when that wasn't the case, that is a lawsuit there. He has some legal grounds to stand on. Marc-Alexis Côté was programmer and level designer at Ubisoft Quebec, later serving as a vice president, executive producer for the entire Assassin's Creed franchise from 2020 until his departure from the company in 2025. And we'll leave it at this because I think this is fascinating. When we go to the Ubisoft stock, not going so hot for them. And on top of the stock bouncing back slightly from 134 to 154 this year, the full year pulling it back down 33%, and 5 years down 93% in the past 5 years. And they've sold off part of their company to Tencent and now getting sued, allegedly in $2+ billion worth of debt. Ubisoft is a complete catastrophe, no matter how you look at it. But I still claim that they have a lot to offer as far as IPs are concerned. And the debt that you go into is meaningless unless the banks call it in. And there's still money to be made from Ubisoft, which would explain why they're still running functionally right now. As ridiculous as it sounds, alleged tremendous amounts of Canadian governmental backing for projects as well. So it is curious. But with this lawsuit, it's the feather in the cap of everything that's going on with Ubisoft these days. And I'd be curious to see what transpires and what comes from it. But yeah, it's like a new day. It ends in Y. And we have another story of some complete catastrophe happening with Ubisoft. This time, $1.3 million lawsuit from Marc-Alexis Côté. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'll see what happens with this, and I'll keep you guys posted. But not looking great for Ubisoft. For now, I'll leave that there.